Long enough to cover the subject and short enough to keep it interesting. Welcome to Outta My League. I'm Nick Diaz. There was a poll on Twitter by Josh Pate of Late Kick 24/7 Sports, and I really like this guy's stuff. He's very practical, reasonable, one, in my opinion, the best in the business. And the poll that he put up on his account asked, who was the best hire this cycle? And the options were Brian Kelly, Lincoln Riley, Mario Cristobal. Now take a wild guess who was number one. And you can probably tell it wasn't Brian Kelly. Shockingly, it was Mario Cristobal. But that's not even the shocking part to me. It's by how much Mario Cristobal compared to Brian Kelly. Mario Cristobal leads currently with 44%. Brian Kelly is not only last, but he is at 16%. What the hell has Mario Cristobal done to make you think that Brian Kelly is that far behind as a coach or as a hire anywhere? And all of the comments section and quote tweets from fans, not just the trolls with the fake profile pictures, but actual fans with their real names and real pictures and plenty of media members, 22,000 votes. They all legitimately believe Brian Kelly, the second active winningest head coach in college football, hired by LSU, a job that Ed Orgeron and Leslie Miles won a national title at, is the worst hire in this cycle simply because he has no idea how to peel a crawfish. This is the argument against democracy. All of these people get to vote. What's more arrogant is that all of these people who say he won't be accepted or fit into the culture, it'll be a disaster, are usually people that are not from South Louisiana or have never even been to South Louisiana. And they keep on telling people who are from South Louisiana or who have visited LSU multiple times in their life that, no, you're wrong about your culture. We're right. I mean, the arrogance of these people towards Brian Kelly is astounding. The fact that these people actually think Brian Kelly won't improve LSU because he ain't from around here is truly baffling to me. I mean, I get he was the head coach at Notre Dame, but holy shit. But look, it's baffling to me because you know what it takes to get someone to accept you? It's really easy. All you have to do is listen. All you have to do is listen. That's more than half the battle in getting people to like you. And it isn't that hard. The biggest takeaway that I get from LSU's new staff the past 2 days is they all know how to listen. I know this because Brian Kelly does it. What struck me was something that he said that nobody else really caught yesterday. And Brian Kelly at his press conference said, quote, I relied on Scott Woodward for coaching references when it came to recruiting Louisiana. That's why the first hire Brian Kelly made was Frank Wilson. Brian Kelly goes into a situation that he's never been in before, and the first thing he does is listen to Scott Woodward, someone from LSU in Louisiana. What do I need to succeed here? Lock down the state. Cool. Which part is the hardest? New Orleans. Well, who's the best at doing that? Frank Wilson. Where is he? In Lake Charles. Go get him. The first hire Brian Kelly made was made out of listening to someone else from South Louisiana. And he won over so many current and former LSU players when he did that. All of the former LSU players went wild on social media. Wild. Some who didn't even play for Frank Wilson. But they were like, holy shit, they got Frank to come back. I mean, when you have a hiring philosophy based on listening, you are going to get great communicators. Another thing I noticed from all the interviews from all the coaches that I heard is that how the coaches speak. They all seem to talk the same. They all seem to have the same lingo. Like go back and listen to the press conferences from last year's assistant coaching hires with Jake Peets, Mangus, all those guys. It felt very long-winded. A lot of eye-rolling morality to it. There was a lack of efficiency to it. There was vagueness and generalities. It felt like you were listening to some keynote speaker talking to a group of Pop Warner football players about the meaning of life and the champions of life and playing football. But listening to this staff, every answer was shorter, yet somehow more descriptive. Every answer was blunt and honest, but didn't really set anything in stone to, back you into a corner without being open-minded. There was a ton of casualness, but not a lot of emotion with all of those coaches. They all seemed in control. Like Joe Sloan, the new quarterbacks coach, said yesterday that of all the offensive staff, he says, I've never worked with any of these guys at all. This is the first time I've ever worked with any of them. Some of them I just met for the first time. But after a couple of weeks, I already feel like I've worked with these coaches for years. And 3 are Louisiana natives, and Joe Sloan has been a Louisiana resident for a decade now. But you walk into a room of people you've never met before, who you are totally different from, different backgrounds, and yet you just find a way to just hit it off and fit the culture. It's because the man bringing everyone in is listening. There are a lot of great national recruiters. There are a lot of great talent developers, a lot of great teachers, but not a lot of great listeners. That's the commonality that you have to find in getting someone who ain't from around here to actually succeed. Now, as far as the new offensive coordinator, Mike Denbrock, who has never been south of the Mason-Dixon line as far as a coach is concerned, his presser was a lot of coaches speak, to be honest. We want to put guys in position to be successful, be multiple, be balanced, personnel-based. All these things. Look, every coach today says those things at a press conference. But one thing that I heard Brian Kelly say, he did say something that I've been telling people for years about offense. There is a difference between calling plays to score versus calling plays to win. We don't want to call plays to just score. We want to call plays to win, which is something Steve Ensminger was brilliant at and previous LSU offensive coordinators were not good at. It's a fancy way of saying situational awareness. Now, Mike Denbrock also said that when it comes to the quarterback competition, yeah, it's an open quarterback competition, wink, wink. But then he did the sit-down portion of the interview, and he did acknowledge, there is a large benefit in a first-year head coach and a first-year coordinator having an experienced veteran quarterback like, Miles Brennan. Yeah, he came back for a reason. This is Miles' job to lose this season. But something interesting, though, going forward, he did say that he strongly believes that you need to have a quarterback with at least some running ability. The modern game demands it. And both Walker Howard and Garrett Nussmeier have that ability. And the big question is, this is something I've worried about this whole time, is starting center. Who the hell is going to snap the football? Well, we finally got some clarification on that yesterday. Brad Davis, the offensive line coach, said that we will not go into the transfer portal to find a center. But they are training 6 guys to be the starting center, and one of them will ultimately win the job. And those 6 guys, Marlon Martinez, Kimo Makaneoli, Spencer Payne, no idea who the hell that is, Charles Turner, no, Fitzgerald West, yes, but not right now because he's a freshman, and Garrett Dellinger, which is kind of a surprise. But what really surprised me was no mention of Tremont Shorts, the transfer guard from East Tennessee. Now, if I had to place a bet, I'd say it's going to be between a 3-way race between Martinez, Kimo, and Dellinger. All are young guys, which is not ideal for a first-time starting center. They have to make all the calls, but they will take their time in getting to know the roster. That's been something that's made very evident. And Brian Kelly, it's clear Brian Kelly is taking his time listening before he makes decisions, because the best listening is usually patient listening. And Joe Sloan said something yesterday that pretty much summed up Brian Kelly's offseason philosophy. If you're not going to do it right, when are you going to have time to do it over? Thanks for listening to Out of My League. If you like what you heard, be sure to like, share, and subscribe, or follow me on Twitter and Facebook in the description link below.